So life is about choices. And what I've learned in my life, after a few years, is that sometimes when I make those good choices, it has an impact on where my life goes in the direction that it's going. So today, we're going to talk about the first habit in that 7 Habits book, and it is about being proactive. Being proactive. We have a choice as to whether we want to be proactive or reactive. And so one of my goals tonight is for you to kind of take a look at this and kind of be honest with yourself. One of the things that I realized that if you cannot be honest in how you see yourself or how you really are, and maybe in this case what kind of habits you really have, then you cannot make choices that will better where you are as you go through. How many of you like to have a little power? I think we all like power. And unfortunately, when you're a kid, who do you believe has all the power? Your parents. When it comes to your parents, you look at your parents, they're the ones that decide what you can and cannot do. Here's what I'm going to tell you tonight. If you take a look at some of the stuff that we're talking about tonight, maybe some of the power can come over to you. And here's the one thing that I learned is that when I read this book when I was in my early 40s, that there's a lot of parents out there that really don't know this stuff. And I think if they knew it, and you knew it, I think down the road, you'd have a lot better relationships within the home as well. So today we're going to talk about being proactive, and you have the power. You are the force in this. Okay? And it comes right down to it that it's all about a choice that you have. The choice is yours to be proactive. So as we go through this slide right here, I want you to just kind of take a look and say, which side am I on? Which side am I on? We're going to take a look at both the proactive side and the reactive side. So let's take a look at the reactive side. So reactive, we can look at the language. The language that you use every day will help determine whether you are a reactive person or a proactive person. So we have language like, I'll try. Do you find yourself saying, when your mom asks you to do something, your teacher asks you to do something, oh, I'll try. Well, what does try look like? I used to say, kids used to tell me in school, they go, I'm going to try harder. And I thought to myself, what does try harder really look like? I just tried hard there, so it's going to come. No, trying hard is a reactive phrase. If you find yourself doing that, you're going to be on this side. Well, sometimes we use the excuse, well, that's just the way I am. This is the way God made me, and this is the way I am, so I'm going to stay that way. And if you are saying that to yourself, that is also something that reactive people say. There's nothing that I can do. There's all kinds of things that we can do. But sometimes we choose not to do that. Another reactive phrase is, do I have to? Yeah, think about that. Hey, will you take the garbage out tonight? Oh, Mom, do I have to? Hey, I need you to clean your bed. Oh, Dad, do I have to? That's a reactive language. Another is, I can't. I used to have in my classroom, I used this, that's called the ladder to success. And it was 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, 70, 80, 90, 100%. You know where I can't fell? Way at the bottom. I can't. Or I will. That's what we have. That's the attitude that we have to have. That's what gives you the power. That's what changes the way that you see things. Reactive people let things happen to them in the course of the day that they say to themselves, well, that just ruined my day. In fact, I was at North today, and I was walking by, and there was this girl. She slammed her locker, and I heard her say that right out of her mouth. You just ruined my day. Well, who has the power if you're letting other people ruin your day? You or the other person? The other person has the power. So if we want to be active in life, then guess what? We are going to lose the choices that we have. Now on the other side of the coin, this is what people do that are proactive say. They say things like, I'll do it. Oh man, as a dad, would I have loved to have heard that? When I ask my daughters to do something, they say, yeah, I'll do it. You know? Another proactive language is, you know what? I can do better than that. I didn't give my best effort here. Sometimes we kind of feel like we're boxed in the corner, when reality is that we have choices. There are many choices out there, and sometimes we want to look at that one, and maybe that one is negative. But look at all your options that you have in life. I like this. I choose to follow the Lord. I choose to live the life that He wants me to live. I still think all of these things, if you think about them, they tie in to what this youth group is all about. You know, it's kind of like I was sitting there thinking to myself, because I could never teach this stuff with the Lord in mind. I could never talk about the Lord. And I thought to myself, this is so powerful. And then I thought to myself, you put the Lord in all of this? Holy cow, it's unstoppable. Amen. Because the Lord is what's going to help you see these things. It's the Lord that's going to help you to change if you want to change. I can't make you change. I wish I could, because I would make you change the way that the Lord wants you to change. But I can't. It has to be a choice that you guys make. Another proactive language is, there's got to be a way. When the going gets tough, the tough get going. That used to be a famous saying when I was a kid growing up, because Vince Lombardi was a great coach, and he said that when the going gets tough, the tough get going. You know what I think the mantra today of today's youth is? When the going gets tough, quit. Oh, man, this is too hard. I can't do this. That's that reactive side of us. I'm not going to let your bad mood ruin my day. Just the opposite of what we said. You ruined my day. You know, sometimes we wake up, or sometimes we go to school, and there's my friend had a bad day, something bad happened to him, and we walk around the whole day pouting with it. And you're giving them the power instead of you having the power. Reactive people are victims. Okay? And some of the things that reactive people do is they are easily offended. Somebody says something to you, you take what they say and apply it to yourself and believe it. I was thinking about, and well, I'll just say it to you right now. I'm going to give you one word. I don't want you to think about this word at all. Okay? Now I can't see everybody's face, but I want it all eyes up here. Here's the word. Disneyland. Now, here's what here's what I saw. Disneyland. Because see, words are powerful. I just gave you one word, but that word emitted an emotion, an attitude. And so many times what we do is we hear these negative words and we apply them to us. That's who we really are. Just like we talked about last week, God doesn't make any junk. But yet we have the power to put those good thoughts into our head, because those good thoughts are what's going to change your attitude. I like what Mark said this week, to look at us, instead of looking at sinners, look at us as saints. Amen. That's a whole different mindset. And once we begin to see ourselves in a different light, once we have the power to choose, then I guarantee you talk about having power. At 11 and 12 and 13 years old, you guys are going to have some power about the direction and how your relationships are going to be with not only your friends, but with your mom and dad, your grandma and grandpa, and everybody that comes into your life. They blame others. Oh my goodness. How many times do I hear this in the course of the day? It's their fault. We wouldn't be in this position if it wasn't for them. All you got to do is turn on the TV and you see the blame game going on all the time. I like to go to Congress and say, hey, dudes, instead of being reactive, blaming everybody else, do something. Be proactive. Not only do they blame others, but they get angry and say things they later regret. Raise your hand if you ever said something out of anger. Yeah, we're all guilty, aren't we? Why? Because we're reactive. Now, what usually comes with saying something out of anger? Consequences? I don't know about you, but how many of you ever felt bad after you said it? So did I. And I thought to myself, this is one thing for me, when I started looking at this, I started saying to myself, I got control over that. I don't have to say anything. I remember there used to be a commercial. It was a church commercial, but it said count to 10. And I thought, that's pretty good. When somebody says something to you, count to 10 before you open your mouth. But reactive people, all they do is they fire away. What's the most hurtful thing that we have? Words. Where do words come? From our mouth. Let me ask you this question. What gets you in trouble more at school? Words. What gets you more in trouble at home? Words. So we can learn to control our mouth. In fact, that's scriptural. Control the tongue. Well, guess what? When you are a reactive person, you don't have control of that tongue very well. And again, it's the power that you have, the choice that you have. Whine and complain. I know none of you guys are whiners and complainers here. Right? If you're a whiner and complainer, you're reactive. Wait for things to happen to them. Wait for life to come out. I used to say, how many of you, I'll use the analogy, how many of you can't wait to learn how to drive a car? Yeah. Okay, real quick. I told I spoke a little too long, so I got to hurry. So we're driving a car. That's what you want. You want to have total control of your car. Okay? But some of you are going to go through life with having somebody help you control that car. Why? Because you make bad choices. We have a whole prison full of people that don't have a choice. They made some bad choices. So as we look at these habits, and you look at these scenarios and characteristics, you need to decide, if you don't want anybody else to drive the car of your life, you want to control the direction that you go, then you have to make some choices now. And I know a lot of kids sit there and go, well, I'm going to wait until I'm 17 to start making those life choices. It's too late. Why is it too late? Because you've already established bad habits. See, and we talked last week, there's two types of habits, good and bad. And somebody said just a few minutes ago, there are consequences to every choice that we make. Another item, they change only when they have to. I saw this at school all the time. Kids get in trouble. Hey, you get in trouble, you're going to go to lunchtime detention. You go to lunchtime detention, their behavior didn't change. Next thing you know, they get in trouble again. We're going to suspend you for 2 days. They're fine with a couple of days of school. Then when it got serious, they would change. When it was time to expulsion, get them kicked out. Then they knew mom and dad were going to get involved, and so they get to a point, they change, they don't change, they push the envelope, and all of a sudden, they change when they have to. Why wait to that point? That's not the way God wants us to function in life. Proactive people, what do? They do things like, they're not easily offended. There's an old saying, I don't know if you heard this, but sticks and stones may break my bones, but words will never hurt me. You can overcome that, you'll overcome a lot. Because I'll tell you something, and throughout my 30-some odd years teaching middle school kids, they're mean. Middle school kids can be very, 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 very mean. And if you let everybody that says something mean to you, and you react to it, hey, sticks and stones may break my bones, but words like a water off a duck's back. That's what a proactive person does. They take responsibility for their choices. You make a choice and it doesn't go that way, own up to it. Yeah, I did it. Again, another school scenario, most of you, two kids fighting on the playground, they get in trouble, they get sent to the office, and what's the first thing they do? Well, hey, he started it. They talk the other guy to bring him, and they go, what happened? He started it. Okay. So then they set him aside, and they go out, and they talk to some witnesses, and they get the whole story, and they come in and go, hey, here's the deal. I know how this went down. I got some people that told me. You guys want to come clean? Okay, I did it. Why don't we take responsibility for it? Hey, if you did it, own up to it. That's what reactive people do. But no, we want to blame everybody else. Think before they act. That speaks volumes for itself. Bounce back when something bad happens to us. You're going to go through life. Is everything going to be peachy and keen? No. You remember, you guys are probably, they don't have this anymore because I'm the older generation, but back when I was a kid, they used to have these things you blow up. They had sand in the bottom. And they're a punching bag. You punch it and go, boom, boom. Oh, they still have those? Oh, cool. Well, that's what proactive people do. Proactive people go, hey, you know what? Life's not going to always be peachy and keen. There's going to be things that are going to happen that I can't control, but yet I can bounce back. I can come back and move forward. They always find a way to make it happen. You know, they're not going to sit back. They're going to be proactive in making sure. Well, let's take a look at your life here. How many of you have some goals in life, want to get someplace? Okay? If you have goals in life, you have to be proactive to get there. It's not all of a sudden just going to happen. Magic wand, life is going to be just the way you want it. No. You have to take control. You always have to find a way. Maybe that, as far as college is concerned, maybe the way that you get to where you want to go, you've got to go RCC for 2 years instead of going to Oregon State right away. But whatever that is, you have to find a way to make it. And not sit there and go, well, nobody in my family's ever gone to college. We don't have enough money to go. That's reactive. Again, it's a choice that you can make. They focus on things they can do something about, and they don't worry about the things that they can't. I started thinking about my life when I was going through this, and I thought, there's sometimes like I put together a golf date on a Saturday morning. And all week long I sit there, and a couple of my buddies that I work with, we're going to go golfing. And guess what happened Saturday morning? It's pouring down rain. Huh. I was ticked. I was mad because I had planned for that all the time. But you know what? How many of you can control the weather? No, you can't. So why worry about the things that you can't and have no control over? So here's what I want you to do right now. We kind of gone through proactive people and reactive people. And I know I've gone through it in maybe a little bit faster, and you kind of forgotten. I see a lot of you guys are writing. But I want you to just take a minute and say to yourself, which side of the coin do I fall on? I don't believe that everybody is 100% proactive, and I don't believe everybody is 100% reactive. I think we're somewhere in between. I'll be honest with you, when I first read this book back in my 40s, I sat back and I thought to myself, I go, I'm about 60-40. I'm about 60 proactive, but there's that side of me that's 40 that's very reactive. And through the course of time, I began to understand that these habits that I was teaching, and the beautiful thing that I had, is I was teaching this 7 periods a day, 4 times a year. So I constantly was reminded every time that I taught this that I had to reflect on my own life. And I had to say to myself, am I being positive in my class? Am I being reactive? And I think throughout the course of time, things changed a little bit. I'm not going to say to you that I'm 100% proactive because there's sometimes things happen in my life that really tick me off. And I react in a very negative way. So honestly, and I'm not going to ask you to divulge where you think you are, but I want you to think about that for a second. Based upon the language that we talked about, and based upon some of these things where are you? Are you 50-50? Are you 50% of the time proactive and 50% of the reactive? Well, then change it. You have control. You have the power. Is it going to be easy? No. Why? Because we got bad habits. But we got to take a time to look at our habits and say to each and every single one of us, is what I'm doing and the habit that I have, is that progressing me in the life that I want to live? In your relationship with the Lord. Is it a good habit to get into the Word on a regular basis? Sure. Are you doing that? Okay, and I'm not looking for answers, but that's a decision you've got to make. So somewhere in there, 80-20, 70-30, one way or the other, you need to take a moment to try to figure out where you are in that scheme of things. So there's only one thing that you can control, and that is how you respond to what's happened to you. That's it. I can't control the weather, even though I'd like to. I wish right now I could control the stock market, but I can't. Okay? There's things that I have no control over. The only thing that I have control over is how I'm going to respond to. How am I going to respond when I come home? I used to give this scenario, I might have mentioned it last week, but you know, you and your buddies are at school and you're planning to go to the K-Man game or whatever game it is that night, and you're excited about meeting your friends down there, and you come home and you go, hey Mom, Dad, hey, so-and-so, we're going to meet down at the game. Can I go to the game tonight? And the first thing out of your mom and dad's mouth is, not tonight. Whoa! Decision time. Do I be reactive? Get mad? Or do I not? You can't control what your mom's going to say that night. But you can control how you're going to respond to it. And sometimes what happens when your mom gets an attitude and you get an attitude, and then it escalates into arguments, and guess who wins? Your parents. You're sent off, you're grounded, whatever. But see, the question is, do you want to change that? And you can change that with how you respond to how your mom and dad interact. Now, I'm not naive to think that sometimes, and I don't know what it's like here, but in the classroom I have people that, you know, lived in pretty bad situations. You know, maybe mom and dad were alcoholics, drug addicts, you know, and so that's pretty tough. So you have to weigh these things, because life is, and here's the thing that I used to tell my kids at school. There comes a time that some of you guys, within 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 years, you're going to be on your own. And you're going to be out there in the big bad world. Are you going to make the same mistakes that maybe your mom and dad made? So you're going to walk away here, if you come for the next 6 weeks, you're going to walk away with I used to use this analogy, bear hunting. You know, if I went hunting in the woods and I had a little knife about this big, what are my chances of getting a bear? Not very good. But if I had a bazooka, AK-47, all cannons, a tank, I'd be okay, right? So the better choices that we can make in life is going to depend on how much ammunition and the things that we know. When it comes to relationships, how we respond is huge. You can create yourself a lot of less headache, a lot of less grounding if you make the right choices by being proactive. This is one of my favorite poems. I've got to share this with you. It's called "A Hole in My Sidewalk."
Is it going? Okay.
I walk down the street, there's a deep hole in the sidewalk, I fall in. I am lost, I'm helpless, it isn't my fault. It takes forever for me to find a way out. I walk down the same street, there's a deep hole in the sidewalk. This time I pretend I don't see it, but I fall in again. I can't believe I'm in the same place. It isn't my fault. It still takes a long time for me to get out. I walk down the same street. There's a deep hole in the sidewalk. I see it's there. I still fall in because it's a habit. My eyes are wide open. I know where I am. It is my fault. I get out immediately. I walk down the same street. There's a deep hole in the sidewalk. I walk around it. that it, Al? Is there one more?
Oh, sorry.
Oh, and then I walked down another street. You fall in the same hole every day? Again, a lot of times my questions are rhetorical, because sometimes we want to respond with a yes or no, but think about that. You get up every day and fall in the same habits, day after day after day, and then blame other people for you falling in them. And again, the control is yours to walk around and do a different tactic. Go ahead, Al. One of the things we got to do is turn setbacks and turn them into triumphs. You can do that by following this. It's not what happens to you in life, it's what you do about it. A lot of people want to blame their life based upon circumstances that you have no control over. I can't go to college because my mom and dad never went to college. I used to, like I mentioned, I think last week, I used to have parents come in and say, I wasn't good at math either. And the student that was right there listening to mom say that got the message of, I'm not good at math. And so, again, those words become very powerful. It's not what happens to you in life, it's what you do about it. Because guess what? Life isn't always going to be perfect. And I think you know that, and some of you have experienced it. That was the one thing that was really, I was teaching this, and there were 11 and 12-year-old, 13-year-old kids that were in the classroom that lived a life of turmoil more than I could ever imagine. My mom and dad my dad's 82, they still live together, they're close to 60 years married. I came home every day. My mom was working, my mom was at home. My dad was working, I was at 5 other brothers and sisters. I kind of lived that pretty good life. But I know that's not the way everybody lives. But you got to understand that the choices that you make in your circumstances right now, whatever happens to you, is yours. It's nobody to blame but yourself, because you have the opportunity and the chance. How many of you go to school? Got a chance to be educated. Take advantage of that chance. Al, go ahead and turn. So sometimes in life what we got to do is just push the old pause button. How many, again, that's a little bit before my time, or old, got VCRs? Could you push pause on a DVD?
Yeah.
Okay. It's like that DVD player. Life's going, life's going, life's going, life's going. Bam, pause. Guess what happens? Everything freezes. That's what we need to do with life. Sometimes we need to just stop and pause and look at ourselves. Think about some of the things that I've talked about. We have to be self-aware. I cannot stand apart from myself. I got to stand apart from myself and look at my thoughts. It's kind of like that out-of-body experience. I used to watch some of those shows, like if I could have a ghost over here. Take a look at what's going on in my life and say, what are the thoughts that I'm putting in my head that are helping me or hurting me? What are my actions that I'm doing? And again, to push pause, that means you have to pause, and what comes with the pause?
Play. Rewind.
Think. That's good. Yeah, here's where rewind, just fast forward. But in life, what you got to do is push pause, and then what follows the pause is think. Guess what the greatest gift you have? Your brain. The ability to think. The ability to problem solve. Do I always know the answers? No, but you know who helps me with my answers? This right here. Amen. See, again, if you take some of this stuff that I'm talking to you about, and then you apply God behind it, the power is unbelievable. Go into the next one now. You have a conscience. You know what's right and wrong. You do know what's right and wrong, so your decisions and choices you make in life should be based upon that. And if you got the Word, you know what's right and wrong. And you got to have an imagination. You got to be able to envision new possibilities. Some of you got this idea of what your life is going to be like, and I'm going to say to you that maybe that's not very positive. You live in a world, my mom and dad, I'll tell you, my mom and dad came over from Germany. Unbelievable story. They got 8th grade educations. But they came over to live. They knew that there were some possibilities here if they worked hard. And they raised 6 kids. We're all doing pretty good. We got some kids of our own that are all doing pretty good because we envisioned the possibilities for ourselves. My mom and dad were not going to let the rest of us just go to 8th grade school. Now, I guarantee you this, my dad's probably one of the smartest men I know. But you've got to envision the new possibilities for your life. And with God behind you, you've got the world by the tail, so to speak. But there are some things that you can do. And you've got to have the willpower. You've got to have the willpower to make the choice. You know, talk's cheap. I can ask you right now, how many of you are going, don't raise your hand, how many of you are going to go home tonight and are going to think about being proactive versus reactive? And you'll all go, yeah, I think I'll do that because, you know, it's pretty good. He said some good things. But no, I don't want you to raise your hand. I want you to do it. I want you to take a look at who you are before God. The talents and gifts. I used to tell my kids this. I say, you know what? Every single kid has gifts. I'm glad we don't have the same gifts. The secret to success in life is to figure out what it is that God has gifted you with and then see if you can make money doing it. You know? But you have a gift. Find that gift. Pray about it. Make good choices and ask God to help you through this life by being proactive, giving yourself the power. Looking good, Garfield. You still have it, you little rascal. An active imagination is a wonderful thing. How do you see yourself? Let your imagination go. That's another thing that God has given us an imagination to imagine wonderful things for your life. Don't let somebody tell you you can't reach those imagination, those things that you really dream about. With God behind it, it's amazing. After all that's said and done, after everything that I talked about, it still comes down to your choice. You can choose how you're going to go through this world. To be reactive. And I guarantee you, you know what? Your mom and dad are used to you being reactive probably. And all of a sudden you're going to get in a situation at home and something's going to happen and you're not going to react and come up with an attitude and your parents are going to go, whoa. This isn't my kid. What? You go, yeah. You'll see a different dynamic even at home. You'll see a different dynamic in relationships. You know, you only got one mom and one dad. One grandma and one grandpa. And you know, we're all going to pass away sometime. You know, I don't want the what ifs. Man, what if? I should have done this. I don't want my life to be filled with what ifs. Not only when it comes to relationships, but when it comes to doing things. And you know what? I sometimes think that if somebody would have taught me this when I was 11, how my life might have been different. Could I have made some decisions along the way that would have allowed me to kind of not go through some of the pains that I went through because of choices that I made based upon being a reactive person? The power is yours. The choice is yours. And as we go through the next six habits, hopefully you'll begin to see that the power that you really have. These first 3 habits, this one and the next 2, he calls personal, which means I can't make you, your mom can't make you, your dad can't make you, only you can personally make the decision to be a proactive person. And what's nice about it is we all have the power of the man upstairs to help us through all this. And that's one thing you got to remember. You're far ahead of the game, but you can make some decisions for yourself. All right?